What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be talking more about the coronavirus. Now, a lot has changed since my last video on the topic, and that also being, YouTube has kind of been trying to shut down any progress of people making videos about this topic, especially when it comes towards the monetization of videos and things like that. So, this video will almost certainly be demonetized, which will also mean that the spread of the video will most likely be impacted as well, because as plenty of people have shown with their own evidence and data, whenever our videos are put with limited ads or demonetized, the amount of views and recommendations that a video will get often will go down. But with that being said, if you'd like to support more content like this going forward, so that I can continue to talk about risque topics, obviously the coronavirus is not the only one that I talk about, consider becoming a channel member down below by hitting join. For a fixed fee per month, you get a bunch of different perks that normal viewers don't get, or consider purchasing some merchandise down below as well. This is actually the last day that that specific merch store will be up. I'm about to actually move it to its own storefront and get a higher quality producer and everything for it. Of course, you don't have to do anything, but I mean, if you want to consider it, the options are definitely there. But with that being said, there is a lot of new information that I think we need to talk about, and it's been something that the world has kind of been panicking over now. I mean, if we weren't panicking back in early February, late January, when there was only a few thousand cases, things are definitely starting to hit the fan now, as over 86,000 confirmed cases are worldwide at this point. More and more cases are starting to pick up outside of China, and governments are starting to really respond and react to the fluidity of this situation. So, as we know, the vast majority of cases are actually in China as of right now. Just over 79,000 of the total cases take place in mainland China, but the very worrying news is that several other countries are seeing a massive influx in the amount of cases that are confirmed and even deaths in their own countries. The largest outside of China being South Korea, where just about a week ago there might have been just a few dozen, if not only 100 or 200 cases, but as of right now, there are over 3,150 confirmed cases, and it's ballooning extremely fast. 17 people have been confirmed dead in South Korea from the coronavirus, and 28 people have recovered, which as of right now is a lot worse of a ratio than we've seen in countries like China, where while there's been almost 80,000 confirmed cases, over 39,000 of them have recovered, and only about 2,835 of them have been confirmed killed. As time goes on, it's pretty likely that South Korea's numbers will follow the trend that we've seen in China, and that the recoveries will definitely start to outweigh the deaths a little bit more, but the scary news is that the confirmed are definitely rising in South Korea. Now, other countries where the confirmed are starting to balloon are Italy and Iran. Now, the problem here is that, obviously, Italy is not a country in Asia. I mean, China and South Korea, they pretty much are almost neighbors at that point. The only country really dividing the two is North Korea. Italy is in a completely different sector of the world, and it is the first country outside of Asia to see the confirmed cases pass 1,000. As of right now, 1,128 people in Italy have the disease. 29 of them have passed away, and 50 of them have recovered. But like with South Korea, the numbers are rising pretty quickly, and the scary thing about this is these are now becoming the other two epicenters of the disease outside of China when it comes down to which country has the most cases. In international conveyance, there are 705 people with the disease. This pretty much all comes from the Diamond Princess, which is a cruise ship that has been quarantined off the coast of Japan after the first suspected case of the coronavirus was spotted, and unfortunately it's spreading like wildfire throughout the ship. Iran has become kind of the Middle East's epicenter of the disease, as over 593 people have the disease, and a whopping 43 have been killed from this disease. But the good news is 123 people have recovered from the confirmed cases. But unfortunately, the death rate in Iran right now is a lot higher than it is in other countries. I'm not sure what would be the cause of that, but of course the numbers are still pretty low, which means that as it sort of progresses and it starts to spread even more, the likelihood that that death toll and that death rate is going to stay where it's at is pretty low. I mean, as we've seen with other countries, the more cases of this that go around, the less and less the death rate actually ends up, even though people, of course, do pass away. Now I want to turn my focus to the United States, where a lot of this panic has actually started to take place now. 68 confirmed cases of the coronavirus here in the United States. I remember last time we talked about it, there was only a handful that were even really being suspected at that point, but the numbers are going up in the United States slowly but surely. Today we saw the first death in the United States of the coronavirus in Washington state, which of course has caused way more pandemonium, as the state of Washington has kind of responded by declaring a state of emergency in the entire state of Washington right now. Now I do want to reiterate that this person who did pass away was considered high risk to begin with. We're not talking about some person who had no business passing away from this. Unfortunately, the person that did pass away from the coronavirus in Washington was somebody who was, if not expected to pass away from it, was pretty likely to do so. And of course, officials in the United States for days now have been warning the general public that while the risk of the coronavirus completely destroying the country is actually relatively low, the chances that the virus is going to spread and we start to reach a pandemic level of infections is definitely starting to be expected. More and more cases in the United States are starting to show up where people had no contact with any travelers who went to Wuhan or any other infected areas, and even the person who passed away in Washington state who contracted the virus was actually expected to have gotten it from quote-unquote community spread, meaning that the virus is actually actively spreading in areas in the United States, and it's not just coming from people who are traveling to other parts of the world. Obviously, the priority of the United States federal government and other agencies throughout the country now is to try and contain the spread of the virus, even though they do expect that it is going to start to spread more rapidly and infect more people. Anyone who has any knowledge about the stock market or anything is definitely aware that the coronavirus fears has completely pummeled the global stock market trades. Here in the United States, we've seen completely dramatic numbers. As a matter of fact, the stock market had its worst week in the last few days since the 2008 crash, and it is now listed as a top 3 worst week for the stock market in history, only behind obviously the slide that started off the Great Depression and of course 2008, which started off the recession. The US economy and, well, other global economies are very fearful for the virus right now, and let me go ahead and take a minute to explain why. Number one, supply chains throughout the world are definitely going to be impacted by the coronavirus. As everybody knows, a lot of manufacturing takes place in China. China is a global epicenter for manufacturing and production of a lot of products. I mean, most of the major companies that are producing things that you care about here in the United States have manufacturing in China, whether it's the actual product itself or it's a smaller piece of their product. A lot of companies rely on China to supply products. Now, if you know anything about supply and demand, if you cut off all of the supply or you significantly reduce the supply of products, there's going to be a big problem because you can't really meet the demand for your products. Well, in China right now, there's a lot of issues with manufacturing because obviously a lot of people in that country are becoming sick from the coronavirus. The government is quarantining cities and everything, making sure that trade routes and stuff within the country are definitely being split. And as more and more people become infected, obviously workers will not be showing up to work, number one, to prevent themselves from catching the virus, and number two, because they already have it. A lot of companies are seeing their supply chains be completely struck by this virus already. And whenever there's a lack of supply on the market, the stock market is going to react very negatively, obviously, because it's going to affect a lot of earnings and a lot of profits for companies because they're not able to sell as many products. To give you guys a little bit of an example, imagine that you run a lemonade stand, right? Okay, and your lemonade stand is publicly listed for some reason on the New York Stock Exchange. And you're expecting earnings of $50, even though every single cup of your lemonade costs $1, which is usually pretty expensive, I would say, for a lemonade stand, I don't know. But unfortunately, the lemon company that you're purchasing your lemons from is struck down by a virus, and they're not able to supply you with as many lemons. Well, you're not able to make as much lemonade due to that, and you're probably going to miss your sales target because of that issue. So, global markets have been reacting in complete chaos ever since, I guess, the news has started to strike of more and more infections in other countries, and the risk that it will become a global pandemic seems to rise. Speaking of global pandemic, the US government and the Trump administration in specific are starting to react extremely swiftly to the situation. As a matter of fact, Trump and his administration are, quote, very strongly considering closing the southern border with Mexico amid the coronavirus outbreak. While no cases of the coronavirus have come from Mexico, and 3 people in the country are confirmed to have it as of right now, Trump thinks that this would actually be a beneficial move for the United States to close off that southern border in order to try and prevent the cross-contamination, I guess, of the southern states of the United States. Now, to point out, the country of Canada right now has 20 confirmed cases, which obviously is a lot more than Mexico. And although nobody there has died, the cases are also in Canada too. So are we going to see the Trump administration and the United States in general close the northern border as well? And is the United States going to effectively quarantine itself from the rest of its neighbors for travel in order to try and prevent the spread? I have no idea. As of right now, all we do know is that the Trump administration is actually just considering closing down the southern border. But that isn't the only move that they have considered or actually just straight out done. As a matter of fact, the White House has upped travel restrictions and has elevated travel warnings to regions that have seen a spike in recent infections, such as Italy and South Korea, just to name a couple. Donald Trump also seems to be kind of giving a little bit more of an easy method of approach when it comes to how he handles this to the general public. As a matter of fact, he has now been telling Americans that there's no reason to panic at all. He's trying to reiterate the fact that the number of cases right now are confirmed pretty low. We're not talking about, thousands and millions of Americans being infected, so he's trying to calm the general public, and I guess trying to, steer the stock market back towards recoveries, as obviously people have been panicking, but the Trump administration seems to be speaking a little bit against what medical professionals and, I guess, realistically, all of these other agencies and stuff are trying to tell people, which is letting people know that the virus is more likely to spread. I mean, we're going to see more cases of it pop up here in the United States. It's pretty likely that we're going to see a lot of people get sick from this. Whether or not we see a complete and utter outbreak of this virus in the United States anytime soon, I think we can all agree that this is something that should be taken seriously. I mean, yeah, maybe you shouldn't walk around with like a gun prepared to shoot anybody with the coronavirus or anything, but of course there are a lot of precautions that you should be taking in order to not get sick, and these are pretty common, I would say, knowledge things. I mean, wash your hands before you eat anything, wash your hands after using the bathroom, don't touch your face, don't touch your nose, don't touch any openings to your body. If you don't really have to, if you have to sneeze, of course, use your elbow. Don't just be sneezing your nastiness out into the open air. And just don't go around hugging sick people, I guess these are pretty common things that you should already know, but that kind of wraps up everything that we have right now concerning the coronavirus, guys. Thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on my channel. Follow me over on Twitter at @SubToOptimus. I post memes, thoughts, and updates over there. It's a surefire way to get notifications of all my newest content. If you enjoy seeing me talk about these kinds of stories that, well, unfortunately, YouTube has kind of tried to shut down a little bit more, consider becoming a channel member and getting all of those great perks and everything. I do have to give a huge shout out to my current channel members. Your guys' support helps my channel tremendously, and of course, make sure to check out OpTube down below, guys. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, dodging the coronavirus, and signing out.